A private faith that does not act in the face of oppression is no faith at all. William Wilberforce. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Conservation Project. My name is Logan, and I am so excited for episode number 5. We got some cool stuff coming today. We're going to talk about the Denver 911 call center being in a critical state right now. We're even going to be talking about Trump releasing his new social media company with their new platform and their new social media outlet. And we're going to be talking about In-N-Out, that famous chain that's actually refusing the vaccination requirement, and it's a whole big thing. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited to talk about all this stuff, but I want to give a couple of little updates really quick. We've started getting stuff rolling here at TCP, and we're pushing the social media stuff. We're trying to get stuff active on social media, so you can go on stuff like Instagram and follow the Conservation Pod, Project Pod. They were having to do it a little weird because Conservation Project is kind of a long name. So you search us, you'll find us. Even on Twitter, they have a super small limit for that. So I've had to do TCP, Logan B. Really weird. Go follow me. It'll make sense. Everything's going to be linked there. But for right now, those are the main outlets that we're going to be posting on. But just stuff to get updates. But if you actually want to email over here and you want to talk, you want a certain topic to be talked about, you want to talk about whatever, if you want any sort of contact for whatever reason, if you want to hear from a certain person, you want to hear about a certain topic, whatever it may be, send us an email, theconservationprojectpodcast@gmail.com. Just went ahead and set that up just to make it easy in case anybody wants to reach out for whatever reason. But yeah, that's pretty much all the main stuff that we're going to cover. I want to go ahead and jump straight into what's going on right now because it's been a weird day, like a really weird day. The three things that I mentioned, I kind of cherry picked for a reason. I think they're very indicative of a lot of things that are happening right now. And I really want to talk about, first off, about the 911 call center in Denver. This absolutely blows my mind. So this came out today. It is Wednesday, October 20th, 2021, and this came out today. I'm reading this straight from the Daily Wire, and there's a couple other sources, but I really like the way that Daily Wire put this together. So, as it turns out, the specific Denver call center, 911 call center, emergency callers are actually being left on hold because the vaccine mandate that's being pushed, people are walking out. It's actually showing pictures from the San Francisco Chronicle of this call center, call centers that are just empty. That's crazy to me. There's a lot happening here. So people are just, as they said in the article, one person was calling the experience terrifying because the emergency call was left on hold. I not once in my life have ever heard of a 911 emergency call being put on hold before. And get this, okay. Lady reported, Karen Schuster was her name. She dialed in to report a car accident and was answered by a pre-recorded message that says, quote, "You have reached Denver 911 communications. Do not hang up. All call takers are currently busy. Please stay on the line for the next call taker." How crazy is that we've gotten to the point where this is actually something that's happening? That is legitimately mind-blowing to me. So she says that she was actually on hold for 2 to 3 minutes. You know, I don't feel like I'm at any point where I have to specify and clarify that I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But the fact that the things that are happening in our nation are trickling down to 911 call centers being left vacant because they are being forced to get something that they don't, a private medical decision being forced into their personal lives is extremely indicative of the way things are going right now. I said early when I was talking about the topics we'd be discussing and how indicative they are. There's a reason I chose that wording, because let me put it this way. This article has a piece of data on it that really stood out to me. In September, average callers to Denver 911 were kept on hold for 23 seconds, and over 1,000 emergency callers had to wait for a response for at least 2 minutes. I want to put it in these terms, because at first I didn't really think about it because it was just another number. It was just a couple of statistics that came out. I was like, whatever. And I realized that's a very aggressive way of looking at it, and kind of an ignorant way of looking at it. And I wholeheartedly admit that, but I read it again and I wanted to kind of narrow in on that specific thing. Average callers kept on hold for 23 seconds. Over 1,000 emergency callers had to wait for a response for at least 2 minutes. I want you to put yourself in the position of right now. Maybe you're on the road. Maybe you're in your office. Maybe it's late at night. You're sitting at your desk. Or tonight, you hear a window crash. So a window breaks and it's an intruder. Something's gone wrong and you have to dial 911. In simple terms, what happens in 23 seconds? Honestly, what do you think can happen from the moment that something happens? You have to roll over, grab your phone, pull over, whatever it may be, and grab your phone and call 911. And it's a matter of life and death, but you have to wait 23 seconds. Or what if you're one of the 1,000 people who called in and had to wait for 2 minutes? Imagine being completely unprepared for whatever is happening, and you have to wait 2 minutes before you can get an actual person on the line in an emergency call center. I think that's insane. I personally think that is legitimately very indicative of the way things are. I also want to foray that into something personal here, just kind of like I'm going to throw this in there. I mentioned 23 seconds, 2 minutes, an emergency that you aren't prepared for, and you're having to call an emergency number. This is proof that we as people, as prepared people, as citizens, as 2A supporters, whatever it may be, you got to be prepared for whatever's coming. And I don't mean this in big some apocalyptic, format or anything like that. I just mean be prepared for the day ins and the day out. Get medical training. Get firearm training. Carry a med kit in your car. It was a couple months ago. This is a very open story here, so we're going to take what you want from this, but this is a very personal thing to me because it was a weird day and it didn't end well. But a couple months ago, my girlfriend and I were driving. We were going out of town, and we were about 45 minutes out of town, and somebody cuts off somebody, and we watch it happen. There are two cars in front of us. Guy cuts this woman off and sends her diving straight into the median. Her car hits it, jackknifes, and starts doing barrel rolls for, good Lord, probably. It was long. I'm not gonna get into gruesome details or anything like that. It was a very bad wreck. But myself, I had taken, partially because of personal desire and for a previous job of mine, I have first aid and CPR and all that stuff. I've gotten medical training before. Basic stuff is important. Learning the basics is important. I keep with me at all times I like a checklist. It's basically a cheat sheet for certain symptoms in certain cases. That kind of preparation is extremely, extremely, extremely important. And when that happened, when that wreck happened, both myself and my girlfriend pulled over, had the stuff on hand, and ran over if that was what was needed. Now, thankfully, there was an officer on the scene. He was off duty, had everything that we needed before we had to do anything. The point being is you got to be prepared. What if somebody breaks in the middle of the night? What if your kid's room is across the house from you? 23 seconds. In Denver, it's 23 seconds. This is, like I said, it's indicative of a lot of bigger things. Be prepared. Take the time. One of my favorite YouTube channels is the Warrior Poet Society, because this is what he preaches. Train smart and train hard, because that's what's most important. You never know when you're going to have to do something to keep your family alive, keep yourself alive, or just keep going. Be prepared. That's a personal rant. Going to leave that out. Going to finish that one up. Leave that one open. Going back to this 911 call center. Vaccine mandates are spreading all throughout all industries, states, and it really is exacerbating staffing shortages that are already here, and it's making it worse. And specifically for Denver, as of September 30th, their mandate for employees to be fully vaccinated went into effect, and it had some problems. The number, I'm going to read a quote from Fox 31 Denver. Quote, "The number of sworn first responder personnel in Denver who resigned or retired over the employee vaccine mandate totaled 27, and then another 34 faced possible discipline for not complying with the mandate." That was immediately. That we're talking like as of September 30th, and all this starts spreading. These people come forward and say, we're quitting, we're retiring, or we're just not going to do it. That's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. And discipline hearings were set to begin last week, which, just to tack onto this, result in more terminations. Tell me where that logic is. Just so we're all on the same page. Tell me where that logic falls in. This is indicative of bigger things, y'all. You gotta understand that this stuff, if you're not in a state that has already put in these blocks for stuff like this, my state personally, they've put in state and local government. You can't implement that in state and local government. That's a huge deal. Not every state is like that. Now, there's some that are really starting to pick up, and that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that some states are actually standing up for the rights of their people. But don't ever let anybody twist it and tell you that, well, the biggest argument right now is that, well, you had to have your baby shots, and these were always a requirement to go to university and all this. No, it's absolutely not. That's a bald-faced lie. It's not true at all. It is absolutely and has always been up to the parent initially. That is just the truth. And as far as university and other job fields go, it's not true. Now, if it's specific and that's something you have to give into, like, let's be honest, you go into the military, there's a whole swath of vaccinations and shots that you have to get. It comes with the territory of the job. But for day in and day out life, no, that is not something that's actually required. Universities don't require it, and most of them can't implement it if they're a state college. So if anybody actually tries to tell you that, they really don't know what they're talking about, and keep that in mind, because you're probably already more prepared for that conversation than they are. But again, keep that in mind. It's huge to talk about this stuff right now, especially with the controversy. We're going to be talking more about the vaccines, the efficiency, all that good stuff. That's going to go on. We're definitely going to talk about that. I'd like to bring in people who are more legitimately educated to talk about this kind of stuff. But the important part is this open discussion and this open conversation about this kind of thing. Because especially on this podcast, what is it about? It's the conservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, Christian conservative values. And the bottom line is those are being tampered with when the federal government says that you can't go to a place, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't work at your job, you can't do insert here without showing proof of a vaccination. That has never been the case before. I had somebody argue that George Washington mandated vaccinations for his troops at the time. And I believe it was smallpox, if I recall. I can't remember I've got it pulled up right here. But you know, that is, yeah, it was smallpox. It was smallpox inoculation. The bottom line is that was highly, highly controversial. And if you read on this, and you can go to .gov and all sorts of different sites and read on this, because a lot of people on the left are trying to throw that back at people on the right, or just independent thinkers who don't want to be told what medicine they have to get and take. That, well, George Washington did it, and you people love him. I've literally had somebody say that to me. The bottom line is he was berated heavily for that. He lost a lot of credibility for that. And furthermore, Congress was extraordinarily against him for this. It actually did a number against him more than it did for him. Don't let people try to twist this for you. That's all I'm going to say about this right now. We're going to get into more vaccination stuff, especially in the in and out, but we're going to break it up. We're going to talk about former President Donald Trump's new social media company. Now, the reason I want to talk about this specifically is because a lot of the drama that was going on, if you guys remember Parler, that wasn't too far back, but I think that's really important to talk about right now. I am not personally one that takes Donald Trump or any politician with everything they say as gospel. I think that is unwise because largely politicians are untrustworthy. I'm not getting into that whole debate right now. It is absolutely not worth it. That's for another time. However, he's kind of right with some of this. And I'm going to read the quote from Donald Trump about why he started it and his incentive for starting. I really actually agree with him. Now, I will preface this by saying this quote is extremely Donald Trump. He has absolutely gone full Donnie on this. Like, let's be honest here. His ego comes out. I do want to preface it by saying this because I'm not trying to endorse one side or another. The man is out of office. That is the bottom line. He is out of office right now. And whether or not you think the election was stolen, that has nothing to do with this. But I do have to say he is right when he's talking about silencing and censoring and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. This is fairly long, but bear with me here. So for what it's worth, it's called Truth Social. And he says, I created Truth Social and TMTG to stand up to the tyranny of big tech. We live in a world where the Taliban has a huge presence on Twitter, yet your favorite American president has been silenced. This is unacceptable. I am excited to send out my first truth on Truth Social very soon. TMTG was founded with a mission to give a voice to all. I'm excited to soon begin sharing my thoughts on Truth Social and to fight back against big tech. Everyone asks me, why doesn't someone stand up to big tech? Well, we will be soon. Now, I do love I do love that he's actually doing this. I got to say, I'm from the nerd side of me, I'm very, very, very curious to see where he's hosting this from. And so far, I haven't seen anything on that. And this article, if you look up his launch of this, it is not. It's very new. This article came out today, this information came out today, and there's not much to go on. But so he put out a statement. Specifically from TMTG, which is, for what it's worth, Trump Media and Technology Group. So he put out this statement today, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I mean, they have pumped a lot of money into this. I mean, we're talking like hundreds of millions into this. The transactional values, Trump Media and Technology Group, the enterprise value is $875 million. They are, like I said, they're pumping money into this. But the reason this statement kind of caught my eye is because of the last thing. It says Trump Media and Technology Group's mission is to create a rival to the liberal media consortium and fight back against the big tech companies of Silicon Valley, which have used their unilateral power to silence opposing voices in America. There, there, there's some objective truth in that. I am by no means just going to sit here and tout that Trump is the all-knowing and all that kind of thing. I don't, like I said, I'm hesitant to give that much credit to one politician at one time. But he is right about this. The amount of people that I follow that are being silenced, it's insane. I brought up Warrior Poet Society earlier. And I think this is important to talk about, and I kind of want to lump this in with this because this is on the same vein. But there's like I said, the group Warrior Poet Society. The reason I'm bringing this up, and I brought them up multiple times already, is because they are a legitimate embodiment of essentially the same values in which I started this podcast on. They are a Christian conservative company, and they're not afraid to say that. Now, they are not violent by any means. They teach good messages, and they talk about 2A. They talk about guns. They talk about they're openly against abortion. They are openly pro Christianity, pro Jesus. Listen, me personally, I love them. I love what they stand for, and to be honest with you, like I said, a lot of it is very similar to the reason I made, or not the reason, but the values that I made this podcast on top of. I follow those same values, so it was a natural connection for me. But they recently made it public that they have been trying for 18 months to adopt a child. And they were just, in one fell swoop, they were suspended on Instagram. And they were not promoting violence or anything like that. And you can actually go back and you can go back and find it. John Lovell is the CEO owner of the company. And you can go back and find all sorts of information on this. But they were he and his wife were trying to adopt a child. And because of he got censored and all this, and then they started to go public that they were doing this, and then they got the paperwork back that they had been denied this because they did not get the vaccine. And now if you go through an adoption agency, if you are not vaccinated from COVID-19, or for COVID-19 I should say, you are automatically dismissed from adopting a child. I cannot put into words the anger I felt when I first saw that. That is a huge, huge, huge deal. I don't think people really fully understand just how big of a deal that actually is. That is the fact that we've gotten to the point where that is socially acceptable is it's tragic to me. I mean, it's legitimately tragic. And then what happened the next week? Both his private page and the Warrior Poet Society page both got hit with threats to be suspended. They have gotten hit with these threats on Facebook as well. Shocker. But their Instagram has been assaulted. And I think they posted again today that they got another threat to be shut down. The bottom line is there's a good chance that stuff like this podcast and the people that stand for traditional values are going to face the same thing. To be honest with you, I have said from the start privately that I am prepared to face that should it happen. And it is what it is. But, I can only spend so much time focusing on that. Otherwise, I'm going to lose the whole point of why this podcast and these topics are important. So I'm not going to spend time going into a big rant on this. I know this is something that's very passionate for me, but the bottom line is stand up for what you believe is right. And you'll hear me. You've heard me say it before. You'll hear me say it many times again. And honestly, I don't have a problem with that. But we're gonna keep moving on. We're gonna move on to the next topic, which is kind of ties into some of the stuff that we've been talking about. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on this because the last topic is the one thing that I really want to spend time on. But so In and Out, they were quoted saying that they refuse to be the vaccination police for any government, and I think that is awesome. I gotta give it to them. That is so cool that we have more people stepping out, more corporations stepping out and saying, we won't stand for something that is clearly wrong. I mean, you can say it however you want, but the bottom line is the government getting into your personal medical life and then trying to make it public is wrong, and this is not something that people should be standing for. And it's nice to see that things like was it Delta Airlines is not requiring their vaccination mandate. All this kind of stuff is actually starting to come out, and a place like In and Out, just a burger joint, that is amazing. Not checking the vaccination status of customers before serving them food. I'm sorry, but if you read that sentence 50 years ago out loud, people would think you're crazy. But so as it says, the San Francisco In-N-Out Burger location was shut down for not checking customers' vaccine status. The restaurant has opened up outdoors, but its indoor dining is still closed for refusal to comply with the health order. That is, I think that's amazing. So the quote that I read to start with refuses to become the vaccination police for any government. That was from a woman named Lindsay Snyder. It has to do with the office of the chief legal and business office for In and Out. And this is the head of that. His name is Arnie Winsinger. And he was quoted saying, "Our store properly and clearly posted signage to communicate local vaccination requirements. After closing our restaurant, local regulators informed us that our restaurant associates must actively intervene by demanding proof of vaccination and photo identification from every customer, and then act as enforcement personnel by barring entry for any customers without the proper documentation. We refuse to become the vaccination police for any government." Adding that San Francisco's Department of Health requirements are, quote, "unreasonable, invasive, and unsafe," and that we fiercely disagree with any government dictation that forces a private company to discriminate against customers who choose to patronize their business. This is clear government overreach, and it's intrusive, improper, and offensive. It's about time that somebody in this position says this. God bless him for it. This is exactly the kind of this is how you stand up right here. It's tactful, it's clear, it's diplomatic, and he doesn't pull punches. That's exactly what it should be. If you're ever looking for an example of how to properly and tactfully handle telling the government no, this is it. The fact that he ends it with this, and I think the listeners of this podcast are going to appreciate this. This is amazing. This is from who I mentioned, Snyder. I'm just going to read all of this because this is amazing. She says, "I've been the one to hurt, and I've been hurt." She revealed this in a Christian post to the Christian Post in 2019, describing a past marriage as "quote unquote" abusive. "I've gained insight and growth through both sides of the coin." Her method of seeking healing time with Jesus before embarking on new relationships, she said. She goes into her personal life, and I'm not going to focus on that, but she says, "I finally found that the deep need in my heart can only be filled by Jesus and my identity in him." I never knew this, but she keeps with the tradition of past family owners of the In-N-Out Burger. She keeps John 3:16 on the bottom of the company's soft drink cups. Quote, "It's a family business and always will be, and that's a family touch," explaining that it was her idea to put other verses, such as Proverbs 24:16 and Luke 6:35, to the fry containers and hot beverage cups. That's how it ends. That is, I'm telling you, this, look up the In-N-Out executives' stories and all of this in regards to this discrimination of the vaccine status for their patrons. I'm telling you, this is exactly how it's supposed to be done. It's phenomenal. I am so happy that finally we have not only people and corporations standing up for what is right, standing for traditional values, and doing it unapologetically, and by God, they're throwing Bible verses at the end of it. That's amazing. More power to them. I'm so glad to hear this. And I hope that this is a domino effect. Incredible. All right, let's get into the big one. I didn't mention this one at the start of this episode. I'm sorry, I'm sitting here reading this and I can't quite make sense of this. So we're going to talk about it. The first transgender 4-star admiral. The U.S. Assistant Secretary for Health, Rachel Levine, who identifies as a transgender female, claimed the title of the first female 4-star officer in a video boasting about diversity for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I'm going to interject here. If you haven't seen the video, go watch the video. And I'm going to choose my words very, very delicately here. But I'm going to focus on the bigger issues and the ones that impact the everyday person. I'm not going to focus on the social whatever. We're not going to make this a big transgender rights conversation. Again, the position that this podcast is in, it can be very easily shut down just for looking at this article wrong. Here's what I do want to focus on. So the first quote that it has, and this video was posted Tuesday, actually, on the 19th. And it was posted by the HHS, and you can actually see the full event on this full swearing-in ceremony on YouTube. But I'm going to read this quote real quick. Let's see. "I'm honored to serve as the first female 4-star officer of the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps and the first openly transgender 4-star officer to serve across any of the 8 uniformed services." So there's more quotes that I'm going to read from this because I'm taking it directly from the swearing-in ceremony, from the video that they posted. But I really, really, really want to focus on the first female aspect. The bottom line is, again, choosing my words carefully. The bottom line is, biology really doesn't care what people think socially. And this is pretty obvious. And I honestly think it's a slap in the face to biological females when you say that I'm honored to serve as the first female 4-star officer. That is, I mean, seriously, that is a slap in the face to females. If it was the other way around, I would still say it's a slap in the face to males. I can't get behind this when the verbiage is the way that it is, because this is kind of despicable. And even further, they go to say, Levine goes to say, "I stand on the shoulders of those LGBTQ plus individuals who came before me, both known and unknown. May this appointment today be the first of many more to come as we create a diverse and more inclusive future. Diversity makes us stronger." Listen, that's not true. That's blatantly untrue. And here's why I say it's not true. And I know that's very heavy-handed language, but let me walk this down. When we focus on things like this, from the federal government in this case, or from the military, which has been this kind of stuff has been very active in. When we take these kinds of priorities and we shift it away from things like what's happening in China, this growing arms race, the degradation of our missile defense, inflation, supply chain crises, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we take those priorities and shift them away from the things that affect the day-to-day lives or the safety of our nation, we lose sight of what this country was founded on. And barring any, passion in the subject or inclination to rant on this, we have to understand that this can really get in the heads of the everyday person. And that's why I felt it was necessary to bring this up and discuss this so heavily, is because this does a number on me personally. It's hard to sit here and listen to things like this, not because of the social aspects of it, but because I worry about things like China. I worry about things like the supply chain crisis. The biggest deal for me is it's affecting day-to-day lives. We're not talking about the grand scheme here. We're talking about the individual person's life. I mean, the last time I went to get gas, and I'm in the Southeast, the last time I went to get gas, it was $3.99 a gallon. And we have places that you can't go inside of to eat because they can't staff it. It's indicative of bigger surrounding issues for the everyday person. And, it's very, very overwhelming. But the one thing I really want to point out with all of this being said, I want to transition to this. Keep hope. Keep the faith. Stand for what you believe. Do it. It's imperative, but do it properly. And we've talked about the toxic positivity thing, and I'm going to throw a little bit more at you. Keep hope. Stand up for what you believe in. Fight the good fight. It's not time to take up arms. It's not time to incite violence, anything like that. But speak. We are in the position where the pen is mightier than the sword. And that's the bottom line of where we stand as a nation right now. Write your congressman. Seriously, write your congressman. It is important. The same people that think it's not important to write your congressman, whatever it may be, whoever that you believe can make a difference. The Firearms Policy Coalition is a perfect example of that. They were posting links constantly to the ATF about the brace bans and all this kind of stuff. These individual acts matter. Write to somebody who can actually make a difference. It doesn't matter if they're unlikely to see your email. They need to see thousands of emails. That's important. It's coming together to make a difference. Don't lose hope. That's the biggest thing. Fight the good fight. I'm going to end it with this. One of my favorite verses, 2 Corinthians 4, 7 through 9. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. 2 Corinthians 4, 7 through 9. It's the perfect way to cap this off. I get heated up, and I think that's important, but I also think controlling it is even more important. It's okay to be upset with the way things are going on, but your reaction to how you handle these things are even more important. Fight the good fight. Train smart. Work hard. But that's all I got. Thank you for listening. We're going to be back here soon. I'm looking forward to episode 6. We got some cool topics to cover. Some news we're going to break down and discuss. But this is the Conservation Project, the podcast for the average Joe that still believes in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that we are still one nation under God. Thank you for listening. See you guys next time.